What up, everybody? It's your boy, Tommy Sotomayor. I want to talk to you about something that I got into like an argument with people today. And it was over the idea of mixed people and black people. And let me tell you something. Mixed people are not black. And I'm tired of people referring to them as black. Let me point something out to you. If you take the color yellow and you take the color blue and you mix them together, you will not have yellow or blue. You'll have green. If you mix two dogs, a Doberman Pinscher and a German Shepherd, you will not have a Doberman Pinscher or German Shepherd. You'd have a mix. And every other thing in life, when we mix the two things, we call it something different. We don't call it one or the other one.
Mixy. All of them are derogatory. All of the things that they say about you are derogatory. None of the things that they say are meant to be nice. I was definitely treated differently by all different types of people, whether it was a white man versus a black man or a white woman versus a black woman. All of the ethnicities treated me differently. I wouldn't say that any of them were nice. Everybody had their own ways of discriminating against you, whether you weren't white enough or you weren't black enough or you just thought you were perfect. I don't know that any of them understood the hate that they had when they were discriminating against me simply because I was biracial or am biracial.
Some of the derogatory or connotations of being mixed. I mean, I don't think I've heard too many mixed derogatory things. I mean, you have mutt or mixed breed, which are kind of derogatory, but I don't consider those as derogatory as the N-word would be to black people, because there hasn't been the violent history or the such a terrible negative history behind it. Especially because mixed kids are a newer generation. It's not something that's been happening for a long time, at least not in a wide variety. I think one of the funny things as far as the negative stuff that gets said about mixed people is a lot of stuff about their hair or about some of their traits being a little bit incomplete. Curly hair but not too curly, which leaves it extra hard to do. Or hair growing extra fast but still being a little nappy. So you get a little bit of that. But I think one of the biggest things for me as far as growing up, maybe a funny story from the mixed side of things, is a lot of times people will tell a story, and if I'm hanging out with my black friends or my white friends, they'll tell a story that maybe demeans the white side or the black side. Of course, is the opposite, and then they always catch themselves forgetting that I'm mixed, so I may be upset by a white joke or a black joke. So they always kind of catch themselves and say, "Oh, well, not you. You're not really black," or "Well, you're not really white." So I just think it's funny that people, still consider me to be one of them, as long as they're talking about something positive, So I kind of get the best of both worlds. Well, I get the worst of both worlds. But
some of the negative things I heard about being mixed are when people call you a mutt or a mud or a gingerbread man.
I don't feel as though it's treated differently or recognize that I was treated differently until about junior high or high school, with girls in particular, black girls in particular. I would hear comments about fitting in, or the reason why I was chosen for something was because my skin was fair, or because I was whiter, or because I blended in more. I was never an attribution to my intellect or abilities. It always was in relation to my race or a mixed race. The term that I find most derogatory about being mixed is the word mutt. And I remember specifically when I was younger, a neighbor calling me a mutt, and I didn't know what that meant. And another neighbor explained to me what that meant. So for that moment on, or from that moment on, I've always felt that that term in particular, I don't care for.
Parents were separated at a young age. My mother, who is Caucasian, and my father, African American. My mother lived in a more affluent middle-class neighborhood, and my father lived in, you know, closer to a ghetto-style neighborhood, so to speak. I went to school. My parents preferred me to go to school in the nicer area, so I went to school where, you know, the white crowd would be, you know, considered their territory, I guess. But going to school in that environment, you know, I experienced a couple of immature kids. Often I would they would be confused at what race I was. I've been called things like camel jockey and Middle Eastern sort of racial names. They didn't know what I was, so they just threw out whatever. They were just racist kids, I guess. So I've been called mutt and this and that. So you know, I've heard it this way or that way, but it would get from one side versus the other. I mean, I would rarely hear insults from an African American side like whitey or cracker or anything like that. But if in you know, Caucasian atmosphere, I did hear racial slurs thrown at me. So, you know, I guess being mixed, you will encounter that once or twice.
I guess the worst thing I've heard, or the worst things I've heard about mixed people come from females who are not mixed towards females that are mixed, which is, you know, just like that they're out to steal the men of their race, or you know, money hungry, or just think they're better than everybody, they're bougie, blah blah blah. But I really haven't heard too much about, I guess, mixed race men. Women, I think it goes both ways. The mixed race women are hated on by other women, and mixed race men are hated on by other men. So any other version of that is really not too much of a problem, I guess.
I'd say for the most part, as far as being treated differently, because I'm mixed, I guess most of my negative experiences in being mixed came from black women in particular. I know since I've been married a couple times, but both the times I married, my husbands were black, and I've always dated black men. And when a black woman sees me with a black man, there's been so many times where I've been stared down, looked at like I was crazy. And I know in the black community, there's a big issue with keeping, or a lot of people like to keep blacks together. And from the outside looking in, people look at me like a white woman or a Hispanic woman that's taken another black man from the black women. And you know, I've just had comments and mostly dirty looks, but that's most of my negative experiences with being mixed came from black women in particular. I think like maybe there's not so many particular terms that are offensive to mixed people besides calling us mutts, which is one of like the most common thing that people like to call us, but or half-breed, I guess. Depends on the context, and usually people are kind of joking, but in a way it's like when they're joking about it, they kind of act as if you can't necessarily relate with their side of the culture fully because you're only half. And in a way it's true because our lifestyles are a little different because we don't necessarily fit into a single box of race, if that's what we're talking about. Just growing up, it was different to be mixed.
I've never really heard any derogatory terms towards mixed people.
Good. We as black women have suffered and been the backbone of these black men ever since black people were here.
So do you feel like he's betraying you?
Yes, I do.
It's all wrong and you are betraying black women like her.
Man, where do I start, right? First of all, you say like the drug dealers and things like that. That's what black women would settle for. There's very few that would settle for something like that. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of brothers out there that got jobs, that got goals, that's doing things, and that has black women. What I found in this woman is, first of all, her personality. the way she make me feel.
Hamas needs to take a bath in some black water and soak his brain in some African American history.
You know what I'm saying? What I see her do with her son, listen, the qualities that build a good relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because love exceeds all boundaries. You can't put love on conditions of sin. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, if I were to do that, if I were to put what she can do for me, what kind of job she has, or material possession, if that's gone, then the love is gone. I didn't like her, I just like what she could do for me. You understand?
Excuse me, can we talk about the I want to talk about the children, because she says that you have no business raising biracial children. You have two biracial children.
I just have one son.
One son, okay.
Yes. I'm going to tell you my responsibility as a parent. Because I am raising an interracial child, he is white, black, and Puerto Rican. He has best of three worlds. My responsibility is to teach him his heritage. Example, in February, Black History Month, I took him to the library, and I let him pick who he wanted to do a report about, and we educated ourselves. And I taught him, and he wrote a report, and that's, you know what I'm saying, that's my job as a parent.
I don't feel like she can raise a black child and teach him to write black history that a black mother should be privileged to teach her children. She can't teach a child anything, and he can't either, because he's already stepped over the boundaries and went to a white woman. So what is he teaching his child about black history? To go to white women?
You know, and I know that my son comes from three cultures. I try to instill that with him. But I tell you, this man right here is wonderful with my son. And what I can't teach him, this man will. He'll educate both of us. It's a unition.
Yes, ma'am. What do you want to say?
I am a product of a biracial marriage, so I just want to say that my mom, she raised me, she's white, she gave me the best of both worlds. She did not leave anything out. My father is not really part of my life, but I still learn from her. She's not ignorant to the fact that I am biracial, and she lets me explore both parts and lets me do what I feel is necessary to educate myself.
So are you offended by what Valerie says?
Very much so, because it's 2001. I'm a better person than that because I can look over and try and educate people.